Hello, folks. I'm David, and this is From the Hip Podcast. As always, we're sponsored by the Covenant Studios, and we're shooting at the Say What Podcast Studio. Got a beautiful young lady with me today. She's a model. She's from College Station area. So, Hannah, introduce yourself.
All right. Well, I'm Hannah, and like he said, I have been modeling for over 5 years. And I use my hands a lot, so my hands will come up and I will move them, but I will do my best not to do it distractingly. Things about me, I don't know how much you want to know. I am also an artist. I've been doing art since I could hold a pencil. I have taught art to students from ages 5 years to even 40 years old, so that's been fun. I used to have a studio. I'm in between an actual studio and just my home right now because of the moving.
Photography studio or art studio?
Both.
Both.
Yes, I haven't told people, but I am making a photo studio in my home right now so I can have photographers come and host so that they don't have to have their own studio and be able to host them at my own place, which would be really cool.
Well, that is cool.
Yeah, it's a work in progress, but it's happening, so I'm excited about it. Other than that, I have 2 corgis. I stay at home. I'm a nerd. D&D people. If you are familiar with D&D, I enjoy that. And yeah, what else would you like to know?
Well, where were you born?
So I was born in Webster, which is south of Houston. If you're not super familiar with the Houston area, it's kind of toward Galveston. And then I only lived there for like 3 years, but my parents moved us to actually this Hearst area. So I lived here for a couple years. Then we moved out all the way to Abilene. So those of you who don't know Abilene, travel west and you'll hit it eventually, and then you'll quickly pass it. And then I made full circle with my life about 3 years ago, moved back to Webster, to my hometown, and got to see a lot of my family while I lived there. And then now I moved to College Station because it's more central in Texas, so it makes traveling, which is what I do a lot now, a whole lot easier.
Well, it took you, we're in Hearst, it took you, what, 3 hours to get here?
Yeah, if you have a heavy foot, like 2.5, but what? 3 normally.
Okay, and then how long to Austin or Houston?
Austin is like 2.5 hours. San Antonio, barely 3, depending on where you're at going into San Antonio. Houston, most of it's just an hour and a half. If you're going down to Galveston, a couple hours. And then like Waco's only an hour and a little bit. And then Abilene's about 4 hours. That's probably my biggest distance to drive.
Are there photographers in Waco?
Yes, I have done a workshop with Blue Scarlet. That's their Instagram handle. So I've done workshops out there with them, which is a lot of fun. But my main people that I do a lot of photography with is in the Dallas area because it's my longest running place to be at.
So how did you end up in modeling?
So I could go long story or short on this. Basically, when I was probably 10 or 11 years old, we were in Houston visiting my grandparents, and we were at one of the larger malls out there. And it's not the Grapevine here. There's like a Grapevine type mall out that way, so it's really large. And we were in Dillard's because that was my grandma's favorite place to go and shop. And there was actually a recruiter out there that was recruiting young children to do little modeling. They were going to have like a little runway to model Dillard's clothes, and I really wanted to do it. And my parents said, no, that modeling's not a real job. You need to, move on from this fantasy. So that was me at 11, and if there's one thing you should know about me is I don't forget, and I hold kind of grudges for a very long time, and I'm a very determined individual. So fast forward to about 17 years old, I'm graduating high school, and my mom hired a photographer, Steve Morrow, to do my senior pictures. And he was really impressed with my, natural just gift of presentment on camera because I wasn't shy. I did like 10 years of theater, so I love to be in front of people. It's my thing. I'm not shy at all. I should probably be more shy. But so he really was impressed, and he said, have you ever thought about, doing any kind of modeling of any sort? And I was like, funny that you said that. I was like, yeah, I have. And I tried to be real cool about it. So because my mom approved of him as a photographer, he asked if he could hire me to do some workshops here and there to teach other photographers and just kind of be an easy model. He was, a lot of it's just sitting,
Right.
But he says it seems like you're just kind of natural in front of the camera and you're not shy. A lot of people get scared when there's like 10 people staring at you with cameras flashing, and he says, seems like you could handle that. So that's where it began, was there. And then I actually met another photographer, Leonard Testa, he was out in Abilene. He ended up becoming my partner, and he met me in Crossing at an art gallery that I had an art piece in, and he mentioned, you have a good look. He said, you want to shoot sometime? I said, sure, what do you shoot? Because at this point, all I have shot was just very rudimentary fashion, lifestyle, very basic, simple stuff. And then he said, well, I'll shoot whatever you want to. He goes, I love creative stuff, so if you have something creative in your brain you'd like to create, he says, I'm down to do it. So my first shoot with him was a painted shoot because I was an artist. So I had my own art studio at the time, and I told him, I was like, why don't you come to my studio, and I'll set it up, and I'll have paints, and I'll like paint my face or whatever, and like do some like artsy type shooting. So I did that, and it was a lot of fun. I felt like fulfilled in a way I hadn't been fulfilled with art and creativity. And he did the photos. I got him back, and I was like, these actually look pretty good. And I was like, I started exploring different ideas, and it slowly morphed into like bodyscape work, which became one of my biggest passions. And then so a lot of like the really contrast lighting. I did a lot of studying on how lighting works so I could be more familiar with how to form and manipulate my body in different ways to make it look on camera. And then it kind of, people started seeing my work. I started posting it, and people started hiring me. They're like, I really like the way, one, I like the way you can manipulate and move your body around. I like the way you have such good facial expressions, and I like your look. And so I started getting hired for jobs.
Well, I noticed we were off camera, we were talking, and another photographer was there taking pictures of you.
Yeah.
And you were doing some expressions for it.
Yeah. I've been told I have an anime type face. I am very expressive, and that is problematic when you don't like somebody because it comes off on my face real bad. I try my best, but sometimes it doesn't work too well.
No poker face.
No, people pretty much know how I feel when they look at me.
What about pinup?
Pinup? Like pinup work and styles?
Right, because expressions are everything there.
Yes, that is some of my favorite fun creative work I've done is pinup. I've done some like pinup sailor type photo shoots, and I've done some in like the 50s classic dresses with like the hair rolls up. Because I do all that myself. I know hair and makeup, so I do all my own work there. But yeah, those are really fun because you do have to be very like, you got to do your kissy faces.
Animated.
Yeah, very animated. You can't be stiff. You have to be very saucy and sassy, and if you're not that way, it doesn't come off through a photo. You can tell if you're uncomfortable.
Did you ever get an opportunity to shoot at our pinup set?
Not your pinup set. No, I shot with Wolf Visuals out. I think he's more in the Dallas area. He had a little setup, and he also had a vintage car, so I shot with his vintage car out there once, which was a lot of fun. But no, I never had a chance to shoot at your little setup.
Well, we had a 50s vintage pinup set, kitchen.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, we had it up for about 3 years.
Very cool.
It was a ball to shoot.
I bet.
But it was amazing, the expressions. Expressions make or break something like that. It really does.
Yeah, you're very correct. Yeah, it doesn't do well if you just have one face. It just doesn't do well.
And a lot of models just have one face, RBF.
Yeah, it's the sultry resting face. And then
Resting bitch face.
there you go. I didn't know what cuss words were available. I had to talk like a sailor, so I'm trying to be good.
All cuss words are available here.
Okay, cool. So I've been really careful not to accidentally slip and say something.
Are you blushing?
Yeah, I do. My cheeks turned really red, so I have light makeup on today per request of the photographer I'm working with. They like natural look, so you're going to see all of my color in my face.
We'll try to embarrass for folks just so you can see how.
It's real easy to do.
Is it really easy to do?
It can be, yeah. But it's more of just like face. I don't really care that much. I've been embarrassed in more areas of my life that I'm kind of used to it now, which is good, I guess. But yeah.
So you don't mind being blushing?
Nah, it's fine.
Okay.
I don't care. It's really hard to do anything that like fully upsets me, so it'll be fine.
So you studied light?
Yes, I studied different types of light, like Rembrandt lighting, the high contrast lighting, studied gels, because as a model, I wanted to make the photographer's job as easy as possible, especially if they're hiring me. They shouldn't hire something that they have to constantly direct or help. I just want them to be able to shoot their camera and do what they need to do, and I do all the rest of the work for them. So yeah, so I did a lot of study of how lighting reflects off the body, how it can reflect off walls and objects, and I try when I actively do modeling is be very aware of where lighting is and how the lighting is, because based on the settings of the camera will change how the lighting affects of what's going on. So I try to be very aware of all that to make everybody's life easier.
And being an artist.
Yeah.
Then
That I will say that gave me a huge advantage because you had having schooling in art, you learned all about the theory of light and the theory of color, which also comes into play with everything as well. So yeah, that helped a lot too, having that background.
So how long are you in town for?
For literally like 4 hours, and then I drive out to Abilene for Christmas with my family, and then I come back next weekend and I stay for a couple days for for photo shoots. Yeah, next weekend's my longer weekend here.
So you came in just to do the podcast with me?
Yeah, of course. It's on my way, kind of.
I'm gonna raise my feet up, folks, because it's getting deep.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, I was really excited to do a podcast because I was telling them, you can cut this out if needed, but I was telling them the only other real podcast I've been involved in, as soon as we were done with the podcast, he wanted to, like, sleep with me. Oh. So I made him delete it all, and I was like, I don't want anything to do with you. We're done here. Peace. So.
I'm not going to ask who it was with,
no.
But where was it?
It was in Abilene.
Okay.
Shocking. That's a joke for people who've been in Abilene. So
that's it on a joke.
Yeah, it's a long inside joke. If anybody has been to Abilene and knows people there, it can be pretty bad. So
pretty wild.
Yeah. Well, Abilene's like the belt buckle of the Bible Belt. But there's a lot of crazy people there. So. Yeah.
Okay. So a lot of Catholics.
Yeah, a lot of Baptists. I mean, there's more churches than probably people. There's like 220 something churches just in Abilene. Yeah, it's like we have like the record for like the most churches per like, capita. Yeah, it's crazy.
Really, I had no idea.
Yeah, it's nuts. There's churches. Have you ever visited Abilene?
I've been through it, but I've never gone to just visit Abilene.
There's not really much to do, but there are churches like on every corner. Like you would think there's probably more there's definitely more churches than like banks or hotels or, anything that's really offensive. Not useful is a bad term, but you know what I mean? Like things that people use on a regular basis. There's like far more churches. Yeah. And a lot of them are full, a lot have closed down, but after the whole COVID thing, a lot of people kind of merged or whatnot, but yeah.
What is the attraction for Abilene?
The attraction?
I mean, why would somebody move to Abilene? Or live in Abilene?
Right. So most people, it's one of the top cities for retirement. So a lot of it is a larger elderly base because it's quiet, and then the other half is it has been said that it's a good place to raise children because it is so quiet. It's a small town. You can drive anywhere in 10 minutes and get anywhere in 10 minutes max. Like usually it's less than that. And as far as, there's also a lot of it's funny. So this is where it gets weird. There's like 4 colleges there. Really? But there's nothing to do. That's what's great about it. There's so many college students and nothing to do. So a lot of people, they travel out a lot. Like they do day trips to Dallas or Waco or Glen Rose, places like that around, because Abilene itself is it's quiet, town. I guess it was good to raise us in it because it wasn't chaos or whatnot, but yeah, that's the attraction of it. But there's a reason I moved.
Well, it's only what? 70, 90 miles from DFW Airport?
Exactly. It's if you're on the far western side of Fort Worth, I mean, you're barely 2 hours and you're here. So it's easy to make day trips and actually come to a town that actually has like activities or, large malls and things like that to do.
Okay. So what's the attraction of College Station?
My partner's job. So College Station for me is central, but I also have a partner. He works for REI, so he helped open the store there. They just opened one. And REI is like an outdoor store, like Dick's Sporting Goods. Okay. It's like that, but a higher end sporting outdoor store. So
An academy.
Yes, but higher end, but same concept. It has all different kinds of stuff. They really focus on like outdoor sporting, meaning like rock climbing, bouldering, running, trek, camping, a lot of camping stuff.
What is bouldering?
Bouldering is when you go like rock climbing, or you go into those rock climbing walls and you're tied to like a rope and stuff and you climb, it's basically that but no rope. So you just can fall. Free fall. It's really fun though. I do bouldering and I'm not fantastic by any means, but it's a lot of fun to do. I'm terrified at falling, so I get real good at staying up high because I'm so scared of falling, but it's a lot of fun. It's a great way of exercising without like overdoing yourself. Like it doesn't feel like you're overdoing yourself, but you're exercising at the same time because there's a lot of good breaks, but it's great all around exercise.
Is there a boulder mountain that you climb up? Or?
So there is different levels of bouldering. So where you train is indoors. So it's like an indoor rock climbing. Like it's those rock walls you see, but some are like inclined towards you, some are out, and then they're all different lengths and they're different challenges, different difficulties. So you have like super easy ones where it's just like really easy handheld to like something that's an inch wide and you have to grip it just like with your fingertips and climb up like that. So it's all like hand strength. And so you would do most of like your training and getting really good inside because they have big basically air mattress type stuff that you can fall onto so you don't hurt yourself. And then when you get good, you can then go in just real life and like climb rocks, like just up hills and rocks and things like that freehand. So I've not gotten to that level. Well. Again, terrified of falling. So I stay in the indoors. So if I do have to fall or something, I don't, die or harm myself.
A simple bruise impacts the model's career. Correct.
Yeah. Eat healthy, children. So I am very careful with my body. It is like a microchip is what I call it. So like a microchip. Okay. So any small thing can damage it or ruin it. And so, that is always, if you're a model or wanting to go into modeling, as bad as it is something you have to consciously be aware of in your everyday life because you're right, everything can affect it. So one small bruise, you'll have photographers who don't care, who will be like, I'll just get it with Photoshop. And then you have photographers who are like, can you put makeup over that? I don't really want to mess with that. So it is something that can be problematic. So you have to be aware.
Well, being a photographer forever myself, I want to do it right in camera. I don't want to have to Photoshop anything. And yes, I will. But I want to try to do it right in camera.
Right.
So, the pose, the expression, the light, bruises, they're a pain in the butt
Yes.
for the photographer because you got to take them out later.
Exactly. And that's and you have to think, because it's not just one photo, it's multiple photos.
Exactly.
And you have to do each individually. So funny story. And I don't think I shot for a couple of weeks because of it. I got attacked at a botanical garden by hornets. Turns out I'm allergic.
Oh, no.
Didn't know that at the time because I've been stung by a bee and it didn't do any real damage. But I ended up, my entire underside under my right butt cheek was swollen up and just red from one, and then my ankle was swollen up. So I literally had these massive bruise-like things, but they were just from the sting, and it was just horrifying. So any photographer, I was like, you may just want to wait for a couple weeks before we do anything because it's bad. And that's a lot of editing. So now it's kind of turned into a birthmark on my under. It looks less repulsive, thankfully. It's kind of evened out. But when you're looking at photos, and if no one does any skin, any kind of skin retouching, you can see just a faint little shade. I notice it because I knew it wasn't there before, but now it kind of looks like a birthmark, so it's less problematic. But yeah, there you go. Side note.
Well, and a bruise is simple to get.
Yeah.
So back to bouldering and rock climbing, you can break a leg, an arm.
Yes.
And that's going to
be horrifying. That would be horrible, but then it also, unless the photographer wants to take pictures of a cast, which they're out there, but there are some out there that like that. But yeah, it kind of limits your ability to get jobs or actual paid gigs if you have problems like that, for sure.
Since you started it, because you said there's photographers out there that like that. I know there's different strokes for different folks.
Yep, that's a good way of putting it.
I'm sure you've had requests to do all kinds of interesting shoots. Mm-hmm. What are some of the more interesting ones?
Interesting in what way? Good interesting or weird interesting?
Well, now, good and weird is a matter of perspective, right?
Yes. I guess good for them is good. Let's think here.
I'm going to insert this. I know a photographer, local, and every model he shoots is barefooted.
I've shot with him.
Oh, okay.
I know exactly who you're talking about. Yes.
Starts with a J? Okay.
Yeah. Yes, I know who you're talking about. I shot with him really toward the beginning of my modeling career. There are old pictures of me super platinum blonde on his page. I shot, and he was going to hire me at some point later on, within the last year or so, but the schedule never lined up. So, but yes, I know that. Yes, I have shot with him.
Yeah, so barefooted, I'll call it a foot fetish, if you will.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is just one type of shoot.
Yes.
Now, I don't have any fetishes, so I'm very plain Jane.
Yeah.
But I know there's all kinds of different things.
Yes.
So what are some of the interesting ones?
Okay. Ooh,
that was different for you.
Right. So, we'll start with more mild. So shibari work.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So I've done quite a few shibari works. I actually enjoy shibari. I enjoy it when it's done right. There are people who do shibari work that should not be in shibari work because they don't do it for completely the right reasons. So there's that.
Or very well.
Or very well, because shibari artists, if they're actually really good at it, there are certain things that they should be doing while those sessions are going on, and if that's not happening, it can be very dangerous, actually. Right. Probably one of the more interesting ones that I did not end up doing, just because it did cross my own line of comfort. And I have a very wide breadth of comfort, so that's saying something. One of the stranger ones is somebody wanted to do hook work. if you're familiar with that. So what it is they actually take like physical large fish hooks and they physically hook into your skin and they suspend you like that. And so it is very dangerous. People can go to the hospital with like, you could pass out.
Mental hospital.
No, like a physical, because you're bleeding out. And I mean, if you're trauma, yes. So that was something I was asked that I turned down because that's just too much. That's just a lot. And there's so much risk involved that for me, the risk reward was just not worth it. I've done a lot of the classic. There was one I didn't know at the time. I shot with somebody, and toward the end of the shoot, they brought out little frilly girl socks. And they're like, I want to do some with you in these little tiny girl socks and nothing else. So you can make your imagination of what that fetish was, specifically with little...
Well, that's not a fetish at all.
No, not at all. So that was a strange one. They behaved themselves during the shoot, thank God, but it was very weird because the rest of the shoot was very just, lingerie, some nude stuff, but the frilly socks was very off-kilter for the entire shoot. So I knew it was like, that was his personal thing. I was wondering where it was going to come to play. Because there's always that. So that was a fun one. How to be gentle. There's been quite a few food fetish ones.
You say foot or food?
Food fetish shoots. Now, I myself like to partake. I enjoy food-related shoots. I think they're fun. They can be a blast. There was one... And this was in Abilene, so that tells you something for those people. This gentleman wanted to do a shoot. Mind you, I had shot with him before, and he was fine and normal. We did like nude lawn. He was normal-ish, as normal as some of these people, normal as.
Abilene gets.
Yeah. So he's like, I want to do some food fetish stuff, and one of them involved doing like a honey drip and like sprinkles and doing like close-up shots. And I'm fine with that. That's fine with me. And so we planned for that, and everything was fine. My partner happened to go to this one. He doesn't go to all my shoots, hardly ever, but we were doing something afterwards. So I was like, you just come along, just hang tight, and just wait for me. And anyways, he was in the room, and I had finished the shot, and I had gotten up because he laid out like a blanket sheet just to make sure we didn't make a total mess with the honey. And I get up and I go to shower everything off, and my partner informs me later, because he's very respectful, and he's like, you do you boo, and whatever you want to do. He's not like an awful human. Like I've seen some like partners and boyfriends they can be really horrible, and he's not like that. So, because he's also a photographer, so he knows the drill. But he told me, he's like, I just want to let you know, take the information as you will. When you got up and went to the shower, he went over and started eating all the things that had come off my body and was making commentaries of like, oh, this is so much better than in the jar. Oh, this is so much better. These sprinkles are so good. And was just eating everything from the sheet that I had been like sitting on and it had come off of my body.
That's a little different.
It's very different. So, safe to say, I decided not to move forward with shooting with them again. After that, I was like, that's too much. So, food fetish, stuff like that. I do a lot of food fetish. I do a lot of toy work. So, I have like glass toys that I will pose with. And so those can get weird if the photographer has no experience with shooting glass toys and they don't know what to do with it. So I do offer that, but there's a lot of conversation that happens prior to those kind of shoots because expectations have to be set. So,
now,
yeah.
I'm assuming I'm thinking along the right tracks with glass toys. Mm-hmm. Okay. So is the difficulty because of the glass and reflections, or are you talking about something else?
So I would say it can be both, but I am talking about else because they don't really know how to handle that sometimes. Like the idea is cool, and then when they're there in person, they realize it's not just fun and games like the whole time. Like it actually takes work to like pose things in a way where it looks good on camera. It's not reality of like fun time with glass toys. Like it's very cold. It's very very cold and
it's not a fun shoot. It's a work shoot.
It's a work shoot, and so they in their brain they tend to have this imagination of what it's supposed to be like, and then it's not. So then it can get really awkward as far as like their behavior because they were expecting this other kind of experience, fantasy, I guess, but
an erotic experience.
Yeah, which is really not erotic. It's very hard because I'm having to like pose my body in a very, very particular way so the light hits the glass just right so you can see it well. It's like a whole thing. So those can get a little weird. I've never really had anybody be awful about it, but
I've had experience with people that think that photographers are out to meet beautiful women and they're taking pictures just to see a girl naked. And although that does happen, it's difficult to get really good images no matter what the subject is.
right.
You know, it's difficult. Mm-hmm. I remember a girl I went out with after I was divorced, and I told her I was a photographer. And, oh, you just want to see, a bunch of pretty girls. Kathy, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And, oh, you're just messing around, that's why you're doing it. No, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And she'd also come in, she'd always thought about modeling. I said, okay, well, let me do a shoot with you. So she came to the studio, and we'd been shooting 45 minutes, and she said, you're right. One, you're so busy and focused, you don't have time to fool around. Yep. And this is hard.
Yep, exactly.
It is not easy.
No, it's not. And you can immediately tell the photographers who are the just want access photographers versus the actual photographers that are trying to make something out of what they're doing, because it's a whole different experience. And those are always such a pleasure to work with because they end up being able to...
Excuse me.
Oh, you're good. They end up being able to create such beautiful pieces of work, even if it's quote-unquote erotic bodyscapes or any kind of nudity at all. It doesn't feel like that while the photos are happening because there's so much focus and like tilting and tiny little micro movements just to get that right photo in the camera like you're talking. So there's not a ton of post editing. Like you want to have the shot right when you take the photo and not have to do a bunch of adjustments later on.
Yeah, lighting adjustment, posing adjustments.
Yeah.
Camera angles.
It's, all of it. And that's the thing is, like, when I tell people I model, they're like, oh, you're just getting in front of the camera and smile. I'm like, no, bitch. It's a lot more than that. It's a lot of work. And I've actually taken some of my female friends to shoots or travel shoots with me just because they were curious about how it works. And afterwards, they were like, well, that was not what I expected. I was like, I say, it ain't easy. I'm like, oh, you're dripping in sweat. I'm like, get the photo. We can do this. Because I try to do a lot of, like, interesting stuff. I'm not very still. But, that's a big misdemeanor with modeling is that it's just you sit there and look pretty. It's so much more than that.
It is.
Yeah. And on both sides, too. Photographers is not just clicking a button. Like, bro, you got so many settings you're dealing with, plus the lighting you're dealing with, plus the angle, making sure you're making the model look good, making sure your lighting looks good, and the composition, and just so many things are going on that people just don't understand unless they're experiencing it.
You know what I hate the most?
Oh, gosh.
No. You have a concept in mind, and you know exactly where the light's going to be. You know what the camera's going to be. You know the type of model you want, the look you want, etc. And you get it all set up, and you think you got the perfect shot. You look at it and say, that looks like crap. This had nothing like what I envisioned. And you're so disappointed because what you envision is not working at all.
Yeah.
You know, and it may never work.
Yeah, that is, you know, have you ever, let me ask you something. Have you ever, like, had that, you planned everything out, you knew exactly what you were trying to get, and you start shooting, and the shot you end up liking the most was nowhere close to what your original idea was?
Oh, yeah.
All the time, right? So I always encourage people, I'm like, do not, at least in my experience, if you do too much over planning, you end up with that disappointment of like, this was the one thing I wanted and it didn't work. So I always tell people, be fluid, like be open to something else that might just come up at. I can tell you some of the best photos that have ever been taken of me were just happenstance. Like they just happen and it's like, whoa, like the angle just happened to be a happenstance. Or there was one shot that the flash didn't go off properly, and it was like the photographer's favorite shot of the whole. He says, this is it. He says, we got it. He says, I didn't even plan on it, but here it is. And I was, great, that's good. But yeah, always having that fluidity. But I know the disappointment you're talking about, because there's been some creative concepts I personally wanted to do, and I had this idea in my brain, and it was nothing on the photographer's side of not being able to capture it, is they captured it, and then I'm like, okay, that actually doesn't look right at all. Like we got to regroup. So I've learned over years, don't have a plan, but be fluid, you know, and open to other ways of looking at things or other concepts.
Well, and from a photographer's standpoint, I've had shoots, you know, I meet somebody, I want to photograph them. They're going to photograph so well. And come to the studio, set everything up, take some pictures, and they don't photograph well at all. Yeah. And then the opposite happens. You go to shoot somebody, and you think, okay, well, I'm going to have to work real hard to get good pictures. For whatever reason, they photograph beautifully. We had a girl leave a dress one time at the studio, and it was a green, ugliest damn prom dress I've ever seen in my life. But she left it. I figured, yeah, it's so ugly nobody wants it, right?
Right.
It photographed so beautiful.
Isn't that crazy how that happens?
And I had the opposite. I found a beautiful, antique, full sequin gown.
Ooh.
Found it at a pawn shop, bought it. And it was a small, so not everybody could fit into it. But it was beautiful. And photographed it. It sucked. It was the ugliest damn thing. The color did not come out. The sequins went all different directions on the lighting.
Yeah.
It just looked so drab. Mm. And so you never know.
You really don't know until you try it and see what happens. There's been some, like, as a model, you have a shopping addiction. It just comes with it. It's collateral damage. So
isn't that come with being a woman?
Dude, yeah. Well, there are some men who can shock your brains out. Yeah, I do. But I always am gathering things as I find stuff. And I have noticed, like, I've picked out some, like, god-awful looking colored dresses or pieces. And I've noticed, like, a lot of those end up looking really cool on the camera. And I couldn't explain to you. I don't know if it's just how the color grading worked with them. But it is weird how a lot of, like, ugly looking things end up translating well in a photo.
Well.
Yeah. And it also can depend on the model, too. There has been, like, things that I have tried to wear and I think it was subpar, but then, like, I have model friends and we exchange stuff all the time, like, if somebody else can wear it. And it'll look like drop dead gorgeous on another model. I'm like, it's the skin tone, it's, you know, the hair shape, the face shape, all of that also determines some of the way things look on camera too.
Do y'all exchange clothes intentionally, Or when you're at a meetup and all the models come in and they throw empty their suitcase on the floor. And then they start packing up later. Who knows who got what?
I will say that I have had a couple occasions where I have come home with stuff that was not mine, and it takes you a second because you get so much stuff over your time, especially if you like hold your same size for years, that you are like, is that mine? I don't remember. And so you have to like throw it in the group chat, say, hey, I got this. I don't think this is mine, but does anybody else want to claim this? So I still have a romper from some girl from a meetup in Houston that never got back to her because we could never line up on schedule. So eventually she's like, just forget it. She's like, I don't even want it that bad. I was like, okay. So you do sometimes get free clothes, but sometimes it's intentional. Like, you know, either you've already worn it in a shoot and you're never going to wear. I have my shoot clothes. I have my regular clothes, my everyday clothes, and then fancy clothes. So my shoot clothes, I pretty much wear for one shoot, and I'm like, somebody else can have it. I'm never going to wear this again. I don't like to rewear things in shoots, which is very problematic for my wallet, but that's just how I am.
Okay.
I don't like repeats.
Well, having the studio, we do sets, we buy different furnishings, you know, and we'll buy a couch, as an example. And everybody just loves that shooting on that couch for about a month. And then, I'm talking about frequent photographers at the studio.
Yeah.
And then they want me to chunk it and go get a new couch.
Yeah.
They've only shot 1% of the models out there on that couch.
Yep.
Okay? But they've shot it, so they're tired of it.
Yeah.
But there's so many people that have not shot it yet. So
that's hard to balance as someone who owns a studio.
It is difficult.
Because you have to, have enough profit income to like warrant changing out all furniture pieces, mind you, which is 2, 3, 4, 5,000 plus, depending on. I was gonna say, well, yeah, if you're smart about it, pawn shops, Goodwills, thrift stores is a great asset. But yeah, Facebook Marketplace, but still, I mean, monthly, that's a lot.
We had a red lip couch.
I remember the red lip couch.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I never shot on the red lip couch, but I do remember it. So I was wondering that when I did end up coming down here one of the first times, it was not here anymore. And I was wondering in the back of my mind, I assumed it was probably something that got filtered out at some point, but prior to.
What happened to it, here's the story. Pastor's wife knew I was a photographer. And she messaged me, I've got this couch. It looks so good. You need to buy it. And sent me a picture, and no, don't interested in that gaudy thing. And a month goes by, she hadn't sold it. She messaged my wife. And my wife says, oh yeah, we'll take that. So, surprise, I got this red lip couch, which worked great on Valentine's. It really did.
Yeah, seasonal.
And we had it for a year and a half. And somebody came in one day, and her business name is Red Lips, Red Dress, or something like that.
Oh.
And she said, if you ever want to sell that couch, I want to buy it.
Awesome.
It goes perfect with my business name. Well, 6 months later, and everybody's saying, David, get rid of that couch. So I sold it to her.
Nice.
For what I paid for it.
There you go.
And
see, that's always nice when that happens.
yeah.
So you get your money back at least on it.
Normally owning a studio, you're not so lucky.
Right.
It gets broken.
Yeah.
We've got and knock on wood, we've got a very nice leather chair in the studio. It's like an $1,100 chair.
Oof.
I caught it on Marketplace for $150.
Nice.
And we've had it a couple of years now. And it still shoots really well.
Which is good, yeah.
Regardless of everybody that wants me to get something different.
I must say, I feel like there are some pieces that are good. It's timeless, like
Exactly.
because you can dress it up. The model can be dressed differently, and it feels completely different. I feel like a nice leather chair is like a good solid piece to just have consistently.
Well, and the thing is, now not everybody shoots the way I shoot,
Right.
but I shoot people, and so I shoot tight. Mm-hmm. I don't want to take a picture of the whole damn couch.
Right. Yeah.
It's going to be just a little section of it.
Yep.
So it doesn't matter.
Exactly. It's a background piece.
Yeah, it's a background.
Yeah.
Is what it is.
Yeah. So it doesn't. That at that point, like I said, that doesn't matter. But I know the photographer types of photographers you're talking about, where they want to do everything is like a full picture.
It's a landscape.
Everything, and it's like, can you crop in just a hair? There's a lot happening here. I love photographers that shoot. I tend to like pictures that are shot tighter. Like that tends to be my preference. There are some like urban type shooting that I really like, where it is more further out, so you get like, the building scapes and things like that. But the tighter stuff, I feel like evokes more feeling, tells more of a story, and the pieces in the background or the furniture matter less because they're not the forefront,
Exactly.
focal point. So it works like all around.
Was at the fabrication yard in Dallas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've never been over there.
You haven't? Oh, it's pretty
I
cool.
will never go over there.
It's pretty cool. Once.
Well, everybody shoots it, one, because
Yeah.
it's a cool place.
It's
and
overshot.
And it's free.
Yeah.
Okay? But I see images all the time. And they want you to know they're in the fabrication yard.
Yeah.
So we got this landscape picture. And if you were the model, nobody could identify you.
Correct. Yeah.
You'd have to
You're
zoom.
lost in all the colors and the.
Yeah, it's like you
the whole thing.
photobombed their shoot.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I know. And yeah, the fabrication yard is overshot. Like when I try to direct people, if like a photographer wants to shoot there, I try to encourage nicely, like, why don't we choose another place? Because I know some other like graffiti type places that would be cool that's different than that.
Right.
I'm always excited when a photographer has like a weird place they want to shoot. So I've shot in so many abandoned houses and mansions and like really scary, like abandoned mansions.
Right.
That one out here, where is it? Denton? It's somewhere around here. I shot Wednesday Addams and Beetlejuice in a like old broken down mansion. It's super cool, super dangerous, because they had it's like 4 stories or something, and they're renovating it, but they've been renovating it for like
10 years.
Yeah, like years they've been doing it. So we shot, and it looked perfect for like an Addams creepy vibe. Stuff like that's fun. Like I'm down for the count. I've shot in an abandoned place out towards San Angelo. This guy had an abandoned building, and we shot out there. And then there was another abandoned house this other photographer knew, more West Texas, and it had barbed wire in it. And I shot in the rusted barbed wire. I did not cut myself, but I did. I was nude, entwined in the barbed wire, and got shot. So that was my idea, not the photographer. The photographer was like, I don't know if that's safe. I was like, that's not. I was like, please, for me. I was like, this is my one request. I was like, I want to be shot in barbed wire. So like, I had it like kind of pressed.
And I
so
thought other people were weird.
I know. I like, because the shots were cool, because the barbed wire was kind of pressed up against my skin, so it looked so like rustic and natural. So cool. It's one of my top. I had purple hair at the time, so like my hair was like just vibrant purple, and I'm pale as fuck, as you can tell. So like, yeah. I like this like pale ghost and like barbed wire. Super fun. I've shot in a lot of abandoned buildings. That's where I should probably be more careful, but it's fun. So
what has been your best and worst experience as a model?
I have been sexually assaulted as a model. So I have had somebody, I was posed up and they grabbed my bits, and the shoot was quickly over after that. So that was real traumatizing. It was toward my beginning of modeling. I almost quit. A close second to that is I was shooting with a photographer and my partner. They both were there shooting for me in a cotton field. We were doing like a big oversized sweater, and I had shorts on underneath it, and we were shooting in sunset in a cotton field that the photographer got permission from the owner to go and shoot in it. They left the gate open for us. They're like, yeah, go shoot, not a problem. Well, apparently there's two owners to that cotton field, and they're brothers. And
one of them did not know.
One of them did not know. I was harassed for weeks by him. He would send me pictures of donkeys and horses and would say really derogatory things towards me as being like a porn star, and you basically need to, in gentle ways, like end yourself. And police ended up getting involved, and they took care of him, and I had to get a new phone number. It was miserable. So I almost quit modeling after that, because the guy had like a shotgun with him when he came rolling up and was screaming at us to get out of the field. It was just a hot mess. So that was close second to just horrific and unnecessary. I wasn't nude. I was wearing an oversized sweater and shorts. So where he got anything that he was saying was completely off. Like, I was fully clothed for that. But he lost his mind. Probably one of my best experiences, that's hard. I've had a lot of good experience with people. There's some really great photographers. How do I pick just one? Well, my partner is obviously an easy out. I love photographing with him. He's my creativity buddy. But I would say outside of that, Neil Bailey photography out here.
I know Neil.
Yeah, love him to death. He is probably one of the just nicest humans I have ever come across. He's so sweet. He's super genuine, super respectful, has a good creative eye. I can pretty much bring any idea to the table to him, and he is able to understand my idea and make it happen. And it's very hard to find somebody who is aligned with you like that. Like, everybody has creativity ideas, but it's nice to find somebody who links up with you creatively. Right. So he and I always try to shoot sometimes whenever I come down, and I do commercial shooting for him as well. So I help him out with his, he has clients that he shoots, like I've shot with canes and like a breakfast tray. So we do that to help him out, and then he does creative shooting with me. So it's a nice like relationship there. So he's probably one of my regular favorite experiences. Who else? Aquila, have you heard Eye of Aquila photography?
No.
He's the one, I've shot with him a few times. He's also such a little sweetheart. He's like a sweet little, I don't know. It reminds me of a bunny rabbit, just a sweet little thing. And so I always shoot with him. We do fashion work, but he's, again, very sweet, very creative, has a good eye for photography. So that's always, mainly my best experiences are with photographers who are mutually respected, like between the two of us, who have a creative eye and who give and take in a shoot. So I don't want it all just to be take. I don't want it all just be give. I really like shoots where it's like we both work together to create something special, especially when it's a creative shoot. Like, we're both there to create something special and nice and different. I always like photographers that don't just leave up all the creativity to me. Like, you give some, like you can contribute to this too. Like, it's not just me, it's not just my baby. Like, let's make our baby, and in a non-sexual way, like our photo baby.
Well, I cannot contribute to the creative side as a photographer because I am non-creative totally at all.
It's okay though, but you know lighting and angles though.
Well, it depends on who you ask.
Well, I'm sure you know it to an extent, which is more so than some people. Some people, it's the they don't have any real knowledge base on anything, so they just kind of stand there with the camera and they don't know what to do. That's always, it's hard to like do much with that. I'll do it, but you know, it's nice to have back and forth.
Well, having the studio, we get a lot of different skill level photographers. Mm-hmm. And 3/4 of the photographers out there do not know how to use a strobe. And I'm not talking about they're not skilled with it. They don't know how to use it at all.
Right, yeah, they have no knowledge of it.
No knowledge.
Yeah.
And they're afraid of it. And for better or for worse, the Covenant Studio can be very intimidating for a photographer when you first come in.
Right.
You know, it's got the rail system, the lights are hanging up.
Yeah, you guys got so much cool lighting here. The first time I walked in, I was like, holy shit. I was like, this is great. So it's good that you have it, but I can see the intimidation factor for people who have no familiarity with any of it. It can be it could also be very scary to see all that, to not know what to do with it.
Yeah. And so, but it's not that difficult. You know, you got to get the camera to communicate with the flash. Yep. Put a trigger on the camera. All numbers always facing the photographer.
Yep.
Turn it on. Turn the strobe on. Adjust your power based on your vision and what f-stop you want to shoot at. Yep. And start shooting.
And work it from there. Yeah, I don't know, you tell me on the photographer side of things, at least maybe when you were earlier on. I feel like photographers tend to be scared of taking a bad photo just to see what happens with it. It's like they need to get everything, like if they don't, like for instance, your example is they've never touched a strobe. It seems like they don't do that because they're scared of touching it for the first time, making a bad photo just to test it out. And so that keeps them from being able to learn. That's what it feels like, because photographers, a lot of them tend to be perfectionists, is what I've noticed, and they want to make sure that the shots they're shooting are great. And I feel like that can hinder newer photographers that are trying to learn new tools.
I'll agree with you there, but let's take it a step further. I know a photographer who shoots at the studio a lot. He's never shot at another studio. He's been shooting with us for 5-6 years. He shoots exclusively in Studio A.
Interesting.
Because he knows exactly where to set this light.
Oh, it's
exactly
one of the,
what
okay.
setting.
Yeah.
To get this result.
And that's what he does every time.
And that's what he does every time.
Yeah.
And he'll call me and say, he'll send me an image and say, how do I create this? And folks, in lighting, there's lots of ways to do a similar look.
Right, exactly.
Plus, in today's world, when you see an image, it's been retouched.
Yeah.
And you don't know what's been done.
Right, yeah. That's true.
And things can change a lot in the retouching. So it's hard to tell exactly what somebody did on the original photo.
Yes, yeah, reference photos are scary, y'all, because like if you're trying to use that as an example, because you're very right. With AI technology too now, you don't know what actually happened in the original, even if it was an original shot. Like it could have been something that was placed and then lapped over with other photos. So yeah, 100% agree. That's hard.
And so he's just afraid because he has to do something new.
Yeah, it's the fear of doing something different because he knows it's the why fix what's not broken mentality.
Right.
So, and it's just like, this is what I'm used to. This is what I got. I know this comes out a certain way, and not growing himself at all.
We've got another photographer, Glenn, who's doing our soundboard today, that he shoots in both studios. And when he shoots, I have to either have seen the set he built prior to shooting, or I spend a lot of time trying to figure out what he did. Because we got a prop room, lots of stuff in it, too much stuff. And he's got a creative eye. And so I've seen images he's shot that I had to study for 5 minutes to say, oh, that was shot at the studio.
See, that's That's some good skill to have, that utilizing what you have to make something different and playing with everything involved to create that. Because I agree, I would count that as a really great photo that you in your own like studio is like, is this at the studio? Hold up. So that's good. That's great. Like that's such a good skill. I wish more photographers had, but they only have that if they push themselves to try new things and tried something different, you know. It's that fear of failure. I think it kind of deep stems from that, like not being able to do something the way they want it to be done.
Now, in Glenn's case, if he shoots a Nikon, if he'd get a better camera, like a Canon,
oh gosh, we got separation here. Well, I'm a Sony girl and a Fuji girl, so.
Condolences.
No, I know. Oh, the mirrorless. Right, I know. Hey, you know what? I have seen some good Canon stuff, and I have seen some good Nikon. I will say there's been some good Nikon photos. I have worked with all photographers. I don't discriminate, but I learned Sony. That's the camera type I learned. So now I'm just, I'm comfortable, and I can't afford another camera. So, and Fuji's are expensive as hell.
They're all good cameras.
So pretty, but oh my gosh.
My reason is I get people that come in the studio of all skill levels.
Right.
And a lot of them I have to help.
And Canon is I would say it's a good middle ground as far as cameras are concerned for everything.
It's got the easiest menu.
Yeah.
And Sony has the most difficult.
That's true.
And so for me, in helping somebody figure out their camera settings, which they don't know, then I've got to figure out how to work that particular model. And it's a whole lot easier for Canon because
that's true.
I'm familiar with Canon, but if you look at the menus, and you'll see the difference.
Oh yeah. The Sony one is so complicated, and the newer, like the is it A7 now? It is like they did an upgrade to it, and they changed like the entire menu setup. So now people who have had Sonys are now like, where is all my shit? Like, where is it all? Neil, our last one, he had an upgrade done to his, and he literally spent he's like, I don't know where this fucking setting is, and he just kept looking, and he finally found it. He goes, I was like, I don't like this upgrade. I was like, because it's a lot. Yeah, Sony, their menus are complicated, and now they just threw Sony people for a whole loop too, which is hilarious to me. So.
Well, I had one of the very, very first digital Sony cameras.
Aww.
Back, I bought it in like 94.
That's awesome.
I mean, it was like a Polaroid.
Okay.
It had a 3.5-inch disc drive you stuck in it.
Nice.
And you took your pictures, it saved it to the drive, and you stuck it in your computer.
Yeah.
To see them.
That's awesome. My parents had like a little digital Sony camera, and then my dad had the big old video tape recorder thing, and he'd videotape all the things. So yeah, the little Sony ones, I remember sticking it with the little cord, sticking it into the computer to see my little images I take of whatever useless crap I took pictures of as a child. So, but yeah.
Hannah.
Yes.
It has been fun.
Oh, good.
I know you got a shoot to go to.
Yes, I will be. I'll be doing a shoot right after this. We're going to be doing bodyscapes, which I'm super excited about, and then some lingerie stuff. So I've shot with him quite a few times, so he's like a regular to shoot with when I come out here.
And
it'll be great.
Tell people how to get hold of you.
Instagram is your best friend. I'm also on Model Mayhem, but that number is on my Instagram, so it's just Hannah with an H, HANNAH _modeling 15. 15 is my lucky number. It's not my age. I have had to have that conversation with multiple people, shockingly. So, but yeah, you can reach me there. I am always checking my messages.
Well, you know what I thought the 15 was?
What?
Well, people, men rate women on a 1 to 10 basis. And they meet you and you're 15.
Oh, that's so sweet.
And you're blushing again.
No. Yeah, no. So 15. Yeah, it's my family line's like lucky number. So I was born on the 13th of September, Friday the 13th, mind you. So I was born a cursed child, which explains a lot if you know me. But I almost died during my birth, and so I ended up getting to leave the hospital on the 15th. Wow. And then the number 15 has always like followed our family around in a really creepy way. Like places that we've lived just happen to be like 15 something something. My dad where he's worked at, his store numbers like were 1515 or like something very distinctual. So that's where the 15 comes from. It's just been my lucky number for literally my entire life. But I appreciate your kindness. I'll take it.
Of course, one woman won't take a compliment.
Right, but yeah, Instagram's good. But I appreciate you having me. Hopefully I didn't say anything too horrifying.
I don't believe so.
Okay, good. I was like, I try really hard to have a filter when I can. So,
well, folks,
it's like nice.
Hannah and Hannah_
modeling 15.
Modeling 15.
Yep.
On Insta.
Yep.
Reach out to her. She travels.
Yes, I do. I enjoy traveling too. It's so much fun.
All righty. Well, folks, until next time, come back and see us.